is it quite easy? Let's say during those opening bouts in the Teutoburg forest, you're surprised the Germans are charging towards you.
Right.
Would it be quite easy for a Roman legionary to get this out from their side?
Oh, yeah.
The sword would be quite easy. They can get it out, and as it is quite short, it is no problem in a forest or anything else.
So the iconic, very central pommel there on the Roman sword, this caught my eye because it looks so different, if you don't mind me.
Of course.
Don't
It looks
mind.
very, very different too. This isn't a Roman sword.
No, it is not. It's a Germanic sword.
Here you go. So talk us through, what does this mean? How is it designed? What is its main purpose?
It's a typical Germanic sword for the time shortly before or of the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest. This is a one-edged sword.
Oh, that one there, yep. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you have only one cutting edge, and so the grip might be, or
I never understood people touching the edge when they say it's cutting. I don't think this is sharp, but still, people do that. We're like, oh, it has two edges. Oh, really? And then they immediately, I don't know why people do it. It always gives me anxiety.
is asymmetrical, which, by the way, fits better in a human hand. That is asymmetrical too. It's quite wide, getting to a broader point than the Roman sword. If you can take the Roman sword, if we compare this,
Yeah.
you see it doesn't have to get in that deep to get a very wide wound,
Right.
whereas the Roman sword has to get in much deeper. And the second thing is,
I think it will get deeper more easily, though, due to the design. So it will get in deeper. In my opinion, this is designed to penetrate.
that this very long pointy point tends to get stuck in wood or bones, whereas this one is easier to get out again.
Which is also quite interesting, isn't it? If this is designed for fighting against heavily armoured opponents, and this is designed
really
to
isn't.
fight against lightly armoured opponents or no armour, it always feels like a bit of a mismatch because the Romans are fighting lightly armoured opponents.
Yeah.
The Germans are about to fight
Yep.
very heavily armed Romans.
I'm exactly with him, which is why the statement is nonsensical. The Roman gladius is designed to do it both. It's designed, you can absolutely use it against, and very effectively, against people who aren't wearing any armor. And in fact, it's excellent at that. But you can still make it work against people with armor, although, yeah, I think what the expert said is nonsensical. Don't mean any disrespect. I think it's just repeating something that you hear at a reenactment event. You often hear stuff at reenactment event that is wrong, and then people just repeat it. For instance, I once heard this idea that Romans wouldn't close the center of the armor because someone wasn't closing it, so they had to justify why. No, you're not closing it because you're not wearing it right. The Romans would absolutely overlap the core, the center of the... So it just is what it is.
Yes, that's true. Military is very traditional, so probably they just used the swords they were used to and didn't change the design.
Oh my gosh, this is bad. Oh, sorry, completely disagree. I don't want to stop every time. I know you're going to think I'm annoying and condescending and arrogant, but guys, the Romans were not very traditional. What he said now is not a representation of the Romans. I don't know if he means it for both Romans and Germanic tribes. I don't know, but the Romans are the exact opposite of that. The Romans change and adapt constantly. The Roman armor, mail armor, it's Celtic in origin. In fact, they call it Gallica because it comes from the Gauls. So they had adapted it and changed it over and over and over again. Also, if that were the case, they wouldn't have even designed the lorica segmentata, but they did, in my opinion, because they were trying to contrast some populations of the steppes that were heavily reliant on ranged weapons. So they wanted an armor that could defend them more easily against arrows. That's my opinion as to why the lorica segmentata is designed the way it is. They added crossed bars on top of the helmets because they were dealing with falcata and swords that could actually hit them on here specifically. The Romans do that all the time, and once again, the gladius is not a traditional military weapon of the Romans. I mentioned the other three there were. They copied it from the Carthaginians. Everything about Roman history debunks this statement, and I don't think it's me misunderstanding the statement at this point. The statement is just counterintuitive to everything we know about the Roman military at this point.
Only thing is that the Germanic warriors from the time of the Varus battle began using Roman swords, but this is most probably not because they got used to armored opponents. It's just because it was easier to get a Roman sword than to make one themselves.
Yeah, so you can, when the battle starts, you couldn't imagine some Germans actually using a sword like this. It would still be swords like that.
Yeah.
And I also need to ask about slashing. typical
Yeah.
portrayal of the
You can
barbarian
slash.
is with a long sword slashing down.
Yeah,
Is that true in any way?
I don't think so. The Roman sources always advise their legionaries to stab because it's better than
That's Vegetius.
slashing. But they also write that the Roman legionaries were slashing too.
Yeah, very true. Cutting limbs off, in fact.
There are accounts of battles where they have cut off arms and so on.
There we go.
And the Germanic warriors or the barbarian warriors are said to use only slashing blows downwards. What I don't believe, for several reasons. The one reason is that most of them used spears, and a spear is a thrusting weapon.
Yeah,
and I
agree with
don't
him.
know why they should invent slashing for swords when they use stabbing with spears. And the second thing is, if I hold this sword like, in my opinion, I should,
Yep.
this grip is very good for holding it as an elongation of the arm. So
Yeah, but that's a modern grip. In my opinion, that looks like a fencing grip. I don't think that that's how you're supposed to grip it. But I'm not an expert on German swords, so if you think he's right and I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But if you think I'm correct and he's, I don't know what he's doing, something anachronistic, do let me know in the comments. I'm only about knowing the truth, so if I'm wrong, I'm happy to say it.